So I think why the room was getting so packed was not because of me, but because we have supermodel Q here. And so they asked me to have IT play a trailer for her premiere. So if IT can cue that up, get it?
Growing up, I wanted to be a model so bad. But walking two worlds is hard.
Me and Onesh came here to fight for our Arctic refuge, our animals, permanent protection for our native lands.
There have been multiple generations of people fighting to protect our caribou, our culture, and way of life.
I'm so far away from everything that I know. If you want to know who I am, you have to acknowledge where I come from.
So bear with me here. That darn Norma gave me a whole page introduction to read here with small print, so hopefully I can see this all. Before I get into that though, I want to mention, you know, I've said before, I still picture Q as the little girl that ran around Eagle. I think one summer when her family was living in Fairbanks, they came out for 4th of July. We told ghost stories around the bonfire, and then they asked, hey, since it's so late, can we set up our tents out on your lawn? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And apparently the ghost stories got to everybody, and their entire family ended up in the cabin, all on the couches and the floor and everything. So I always kind of felt bad about that one. But, okay, here we go. Bear with me. So let's see. She's Han Gwich'in and Sicangu. Boy, I hope I get that right. Oglala Lakota and land protector, climate justice activist, and fashion model from Eagle Village, my village. And the tribe of South Dakota. Born on the Navajo Nation, she is the daughter of Jody Potts-Joseph and the granddaughter of Mike Potts and Adeline Potts. As a young girl, Q lived on the Navajo homelands as her mother finished college and then Mongolia. Before returning to her maternal homelands in Alaska, she was raised hunting, fishing, and dog mushing, living a subsistence lifestyle with her mother and 2 brothers. Q's deep connection to her homelands and her people's way of life is her grounding and guiding force as a land protector and climate justice activist. Signing with IMG Models has exponentially increased her platform to uplift Indigenous people, representation, beauty, voices, stories, and ways of life on a global stage through fashion and media. Q has worked with the top global fashion houses and has graced the covers of Vogue, V Magazine, Elle, Porter Magazine, National Geographic, Allure. She has appeared in international editions of Harper's Bazaar and Vogue, and twice has attended the Met Gala. In June of 22, Q debuted Walking Two Worlds, a short documentary at Tribeca Film Festival. The short tells Q's and her mother's, Jody's, story as they take a stand to defend their sacred homelands and way of life while breaking barriers in Indigenous representation. Walking Two Worlds won Best Documentary Short at the Santa Monica Film Festival, and I believe we're playing it tomorrow night here in this room at the end of the convention day. Q is the recipient of several awards, including Teen Vogue's Top 21 Under 21, Model Dot's Breakout Star of the Year Industry Vote and Reader's Choice 2021, Social Mover of the Year, Industry Vote 2022, and runner-up Industry Vote 2021. Q is on the 2022 Forbes 30 Under 30 list and was inducted into the Business of Fashion Global Class of 2022 in Paris and was nominated Model of the Year by British Fashion Awards in 2022. Through all of Q's accomplishments and journeys, her most important work is upholding and uplifting her Indigenous values, remaining true to herself, her people, and her homelands. Q stays grounded by making time to connect with her family, her people, her homelands, and with her Indigenous colleagues and allies engaged in fashion and activism. Q is leading the way for her Indigenous people to occupy spaces that they hadn't before, and she truly represents this year's TCC Convention Theme, The Future is Indigenous. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, Brian, for that. It's kind of funny that he brought up that story because I actually was going to tell that exact same story, but from my perspective. I just want to say Masi Cho for having me deliver the keynote today. It is a huge honor, and I feel very blessed to be with my community today. It feels so good to be surrounded by my people. Being in spaces where I'm usually the only Native person in the room. So it feels so good to be here. Masi Cho for having me. I also just want to acknowledge everyone for supporting me and uplifting me in the work that I do, because I would not be where I am without you guys. And everything that I do, I make sure that I carry so much pride of my people with me in every space that I walk in. It can be challenging to own that space, knowing that that space was not meant for people like us to succeed and to thrive. I have to work a lot harder to get that recognition. I have to speak louder and stronger to be recognized. And I would not know what that feels like. And I do, because I come here, and all this morning I'm sitting here listening to all of these leaders, these elders, these youth use their voice in such passionate, powerful ways. And that's what encourages me. That's what inspires me to keep going. That's what inspires me to show up in my space and own it. So Masi Cho for doing the work that you do. It's inspiring, and I would not be where I am without that. I also get very, very homesick. And it's really hard for me to be away for long periods of time. I'm all over the world, here and there, everywhere, all the time. And I just really need to make sure that I come back to my people and reground myself and realign myself. And I'm very thankful that I have such a strong community and such strong relatives and people surrounding me. Because every time I come home, my aunties and my family make sure that I'm eating my traditional foods. They make sure that I get to hear our songs again and our teachings. They remind me of who I am and where I come from. And sometimes that can be challenging, but that's something I constantly am reminding myself when I am in these spaces, is who I am and where I come from. When I came here, as soon as I landed the other night, I got here super late at night, and my auntie Melissa Charlie had made moose soup and bread for me, and I got home and I was so happy to have that, because I had not eaten moose soup in months and months and months. And it was the first thing I ate. The first thing I did was run to that moose soup and eat it. It was what I had for dinner, and I woke up the next morning and I ran straight back to that moose soup and I had it for breakfast. I feel better now, Our food, our traditional foods are our medicine. And that's why we are here today, to talk about these issues that is threatening our ways of life, threatening our right to fish and hunt and eat our traditional foods. Our young kids should be able to have that. And it's soon going to become a privilege to even get a taste of salmon. And it is right now. For me, I have not had salmon in so long. And it's so hard for me to go out in those spaces knowing what's going on back home. So in everything that I do, I try my best to get that recognition and talk about these issues to people with a different audience, with a different perspective in life, because they don't know what's going on in the world. This industry that I'm in is so individualistic and fake. And so I want to be able to bring a sense of realness and a sense of humanity to that industry. And I think that includes incorporating our values in everything that I do, especially when it's modeling, especially if it's me speaking to magazines or to publications or to media. And it's so important that our voices and our people are being heard and seen in a good way, because we have so much power and strength in what we do. I just want to give a special masicho to a few people. Chief Brian Ridley, thank you for your introduction. I grew up playing with his kids in Eagle, and I'm telling the story. Once we pitched our tent in his yard, and we were telling scary stories, and I love scary stories. I love scary movies, and I was so excited. He was like, yeah, I have a good one. We all sat around the campfire, and he told us that scary story, and his stories were so scary, we abandoned our tent. And the next morning, Brian and his wife found all of us sardined on the floor in his cabin. And everyone knows my mom. She's a very strong, powerful woman, and even she was on the floor sardined next to us. So if his leadership is as good as his scary storytelling skills are, we should be in great hands. I also want to honor and recognize our first traditional chief, Tremble Gilbert, and his wife, Mary. You continue to inspire me in everything that you do for our communities. I also want to recognize our second traditional chief, Chief Andrew Jimmy, and his wife, Barbara, and I want to recognize Chief Steve Guinness. Because when I was 13 years old, I was all by myself and alone, showing up to a space that was trying to keep this quiet. They're going to decide if they wanted to adopt Indigenous Peoples Day over Columbus Day. And it wasn't a conversation that people were ready to have, so they didn't publicly announce that that was what the conversation was that day. But once I found out, my 7th grade self skipped school and showed up to that meeting, and I was the only person that showed up to that meeting. And let me tell you, the amount of pressure and weight I felt on my shoulders, being in that space alone, knowing that, my voice is the only one that's being recognized right now in that space when I was 13. And I told my experiences, I told my story of why it's so important that we recognize the true Indigenous people of these lands and celebrate that, because our people have overcome many attempts of genocide. And to celebrate a man that started those constant attempts that belittled our people, that harmed our people in so many ways that we are still dealing with them today, I wanted to make sure our kids were able to be celebrated, that we could wear moccasins that day instead of celebrate Columbus, that we could show up and eat native foods and celebrate who we are and feel proud of that, because we're meant to feel shame by these systems. When Chief Steve Guinness walked in that room, when he heard of what was going on and he knew that I was there alone, he showed up and he stood beside me. And when he spoke, he told them that they needed to make sure that they were listening to young kids. I remember his words very clearly and very strongly. And he told them that this young girl skipped school to come here today and use her voice, and that is powerful. And he made me feel so good. I felt so much weight and so much support lifted off of my shoulders. I felt the support rushing into me, and I knew that in that moment that our voices can make a difference, because the Fairbanks North Star School Board was trying to find ways to somehow celebrate both. And that's when we were like, okay, it's either they're going to adopt it or not going to adopt it. And we waited, and over time they did. And that was a big moment for me. That's when I realized that our voices and our experiences, our stories can completely change the way our future is. And it's so important that it is recognized. It's so important that our voices are at the tables that are having these conversations. So Masit Cho, Steve Guinness, for always showing up and supporting me and my mother. When my mom ran for Miss FNA, when she was about my age, she was also the only Alaska Native girl. And all of these lower 48 Native Americans had an escort, their tribal chairmans. And my mom didn't have anybody with her. And she saw a Gwich'in man with a moose hide vest. And she said, hey, I don't have an escort. Can you help me? And he just jumped up and she dragged him up on that stage and he was her escort. And so thank you for constantly showing up for me and my mom. It means the world. I also want to acknowledge and recognize our tribal leadership here and my tribal leadership. Thank you so much, Masit Cho, to Eagle Village Tribal Council and our chief for always supporting me and for showing up for me in that way as well. It means the world, Masit Cho. I want to honor and recognize the tribal leaders here. I am standing in front of people that continue to inspire me and continue to fight for our people with such love and passion. And that is what has driven me to do what I do. Every time I listen to you guys speak, I take your words with me and I share it with the world. Because I feel like with the kind of platform that I have, that's the least I could do. And I want to make sure your voices are being heard. Because it's not just my voice and my words, it is collectively our entire community. I want to also honor our emerging leaders. I think it's so important that our youth have a space and have a seat at the table in every conversation that we have, because we bring a different perspective and we bring a different power. You guys inspire me every day, seeing youth stand up and use their voice, because it can be scary. Trust me, I've been so scared. I was even scared to come up here in front of all of you, but just to see these youth, so passionate and so proud of where they come from and who they are, it continues to inspire me. So I just want to honor you for being here, for always showing up for your people, for taking the time and dedication, because I know there's so many distractions in the world that young people have. We have social media, we have so many things that can deteriorate and can take us off our path and distract us from what's really important. And that's our people and our ways of life. And so, seeing so many incredible, powerful, emerging leaders, Masit Cho for your work. And I can't wait to see you guys continue on your path. I also want to recognize the matriarchs that raised me and got me to where I am. My mom raised me as a single parent. I did not have a father figure, and the one father figure I had passed away quite some time ago. And I was raised by very powerful, smart, dedicated women in our communities. I want to thank my mom, Jody, and my grandma, Adeline, for always encouraging me, for making sure that I feel confident, for making sure that I knew who I am and where I come from, for making sure that when I walk in every space that I walk in confidently and with pride. I feel like a lot of our people hold shame, from residential school and a lot of the challenges that we face today. And they showed me that I don't have to carry that shame anymore. So Masit Cho for everything that you've done for me, and all of my aunties that constantly show up for me, that cook me food when I'm hungry and I need traditional food, that You know, when my mom is busy in the village dog mushing and I need to talk to my mom, one of them will always step up and make sure that I have someone to talk to. So Masicho, my auntie squad. I just want to talk a little bit about the way I was raised, because in 2019, when me and my little sister, Nana Esh Peter, who I'm very, very proud of, you know, she's a young tribal leader and she's on the council of her tribe, and she also continues to inspire me every single day. And I want to honor her today because she deserves it. She deserves all the love and honoring today because she has taught me many things. She has given me power. And when we went up to AFN in 2019 to deliver our resolution, we both showed up in a way where we were proud of who we are and where we come from. And seeing her so passionate is also what kept me going. But in 2019, when we delivered that resolution, it was really challenging because some of our own people went up and tried to take away our experiences by making assumptions and telling us, you know, that we don't know what it's like to wake up in a cold house and to go get firewood and build a fire, that we don't know what it's like to go hunting and to survive off the land. And that hurt me because it is just not true. My mom made sure that we had those teachings, we had those values, that we were proud of who we were. And so I grew up hunting and fishing. As soon as I could walk, she was out on the land hunting. And because she raised us as a single parent, she didn't have any help. So me and my brothers have been packing meat since we were like 5 years old, as much as we can carry. And now that we're older and big, she can just sit back and we do all the work for her. Yeah, so I grew up, you know, hunting and fishing my entire life. I grew up with a lot of love and care for the land. That was how I was raised, you know, making sure that we understood our connection and our relationship to the land, our waters, and our animal relatives. I remember my first time getting a caribou. My Uncle Willard had passed, and we were taking him home to rest. And as we were driving home and we got to the top of the summit, we were surrounded by caribou, front, back, and side to side. And I just felt my uncle's presence with me that day. And I was blessed with my first caribou. My brother was blessed with a caribou, and my uncle was blessed, and I gifted all my meat to all the elders in Eagle Village. And I can look at our lands now and see the difference of the climate change impacts that we are suffering today. We haven't gotten enough caribou that came through our region. And it's really sad because a lot of us, you know, a lot of our communities very much depend on our ways of life to this day. And it's been years since we've been able to fish, and it's been years since we've been able to really hunt and feed our families. And so having that experience, I refuse to eat salmon from a fancy restaurant when I go out because it hurts me to know that I can sit here comfortably in this fancy restaurant eating this salmon, but back home our people can't fish, they can't eat salmon. Our young kids won't get to have that. And so I refuse to be able to have that luxury when my own people can't even feed our own communities and our own families. It's so important that our young people have these experiences, that we are taught our ways of life, that they know how to trap, that they know how to hunt, that they know how to fish. It's so important to have these teachings. It completely has, I guess, kept me on this path And I feel like without that connection, without that experience, I would not be where I am today. And I would not be able to come up here and speak confidently, knowing that I don't have those experiences. But today, I come up here and I do have those experiences. And I'm very, very lucky that my mom took the time and made sure that we knew who we were, where we come from, that we have these values and we live by them. This year's theme is so important to me because I feel like our people are constantly being thrown so many curveballs, whether it be from the government systemically or even just, having to overcome so many stereotypes that society has put onto us. As a model, in these spaces, a lot of people want me to fit into their stereotypical box that they create of Native Americans, but it's simply not who we are. I am not your Pocahontas. I am not some Native Barbie doll. All of our tribes, all of our communities in Alaska, in Canada, in the Lower 48, we're all different, but we all live by the same values. And it's so important that we show the world who we are, our authentic selves, and we show them that we do not fit in that stereotypical box that was made for us, that we do not live by what they expect us to live by. I've been told and asked to cover my tattoos before. I've been asked to dye my hair, to bleach it and dye it green of all colors. And I made sure that everyone understood in that industry that when you work with me, you work with all of me. And all of me is my people. When you work with me, you work with my people. And I bring our values, I bring those principles with me. So when I take jobs or when I'm working, I don't just accept a job for the money. I just don't accept a job for whatever it is. I make sure and I ask questions. I ask them, so what are your initiatives on sustainability? What are your initiatives for community work? What are you doing beyond photo shoots and makeup and hair and clothes? What's the purpose of this? What more do you do? And I've turned down a lot of jobs because I realized that industry is just not ready for someone like me. And I only take jobs that uplift me and my voice, that work with all of me, that don't cut my hair, that don't dye my hair, that don't ask me to pretend to be something else that I'm not. Because this industry wants models to be a blank canvas. They want us to change to whatever they want us to be. But as a Native American, we come with so much. And I think when they do that, it is a tactic of erasure on Native American people, because we have our own genuine beauty, we have our own culture, we have our own authentic designs, we have our own authentic selves, and I think it's so important that we show the world that, and that we don't cover it up, that we don't turn into whatever they want us to be. And so when I show up in those spaces, I make sure that I'm representing in a good way, and that with every job that I do, there's always a charitable component. There's always something that I require to work with me. And thankfully, it has been a journey, but thankfully I have an incredible team, an incredible matriarchy that makes sure that when I feel moments of doubt, when I feel like this industry is still not listening, they remind me that I've done a lot so far in terms of getting that representation. And I'm really hard on myself. I think all of us can relate to that, is we're really hard on ourselves, and we're expected to be perfect because we care for the land, because we have all of these things that make us so beautiful. But it's okay to recognize that we also have a lot of struggles. There is a balance. There is a balance in our beauty and our ways of life. in our strength, in our power. And even though we face so many issues within our communities, whether it be losing our land or high rates of abuse, whether it be subsistence abuse or, self-hatred in a way where we feel shame, we don't have to carry that shame anymore. No matter where we are or where our journey leads, as my mom told my brothers and I, remember who you are and where you come from, and never forget that. And as a kid, I remember just being like, yeah, Mom, I know, walking out the door. She always told us that. But now, every time I walk out the door, I remind myself of that. I don't even need to have my mom tell me that anymore because I know. But when she does, it's a good reminder, and it brings me back to my childhood days where I did feel shame, where I did feel embarrassed, where I felt like, like no one cared for who I was. And I was teased when I wore moccasins to school. I was teased for my features, and my long hair, even the bump on my nose. And I can proudly now stand in front of a mirror and look into that mirror and see my ancestors staring right back at me, because I carry the same features that they carry. Not only do I come from Alaska, but I also come from the Sicangu, Oglala Lakota Nation, and I carry a lot of their features as well. And so I find a balance in making sure that our beauty is recognized in our unique way. If we stay committed to our traditional values and let that be our guide, we can achieve excellence. In my journey as one of the first Native American models, the first Native American model to carry traditional tattoos, first in many spaces, meeting people from around the world, it has become apparent that the world is hungry for what we have. And that is community and solidarity, that is culture, that is respect for the land and our animal relatives, family-centeredness, self-sufficiency, resilience, feeling a responsibility for something greater than ourselves, sharing and giving, purpose greater than ourselves, Indigenous knowledge and wisdom, practice of Native traditions, honoring our ancestors, spirituality, honesty and fairness, and our humor. These are all values that we live by and excel in, that the world is hungry for. The world is struggling right now. We are facing climate change impacts, food insecurity, war, just to name a few. The beauty of our people is how our community comes together in times of need. That is something the rest of the world does not have. It didn't take long for Western civilization to mess up the good things that we have going on. For example, our people managed our resources for thousands of years using the idea that we care for the land and it cares for us. It only took the state of Alaska less than 50 years of management for them to mismanage and decimate our Yukon River salmon, leaving us with nothing while Alaska's commercial fishing continues to feed the rest of the world, while our families and communities can't even feed our children our traditional foods. This is an example. This is an example of a system that was not made for us, but imposed upon us without us. We have leaders like my Uncle Ben Stevens, my Uncle Ben Junabe, other tribal leaders, and Chief Brian Ridley dedicating their lives' work and to ensure that we have fish and caribou for generations to come. And without a doubt, the state needs to turn over management to the original stewards of the land. We know excellence. A big part of our healing has everything to do with our lands, our waters, and our animal relatives. And I can say that for a fact for myself, because when I'm back home back in my community, back in Eagle, on our lands, hunting or fishing or just hiking, being out in the mountains, I feel the most myself. I feel the most grounded. I can breathe. I can be myself. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to put on a persona that I have to when I walk in every other space. I can just be and exist. I can lay on the moss and feel myself dissolve because we are earth. We are nature. We are nature within itself. We are not just defending nature, we are defending ourselves. A big part of our wellness and healing is finding liberation in our life, ways of life, culture, and traditions. Breaking the cycle is very, very challenging, and I know all of us in this room have our own experience with that. I know my mom tried her best on breaking the cycle, and look where I am today. She made sure that I knew who I am and where I come from, and I will repeat that because I just want every young person in this room to know and understand that, to repeat that same thing to themselves whenever they feel whatever they don't believe in themselves, whenever they go into a space and they don't own their space because they don't feel comfortable. Take up that space. We deserve to be in every space. We own that space. This is our land. Own it. It's going to take all of us to heal that generational trauma. And I know every single person in this room knows what that feels like. But one thing that I think we all fail to recognize in those moments of hurt, that we feel alone, but we're not alone. There's so much beauty, so much strength in our people. And I see that in this room today. I do not feel like my generational trauma is eating at me. I feel power, I feel resilience thriving in this room. Our people are some of the most resilient people on this planet. I think one statistic that not a lot of people talk about or know of is Indigenous people only take up 5% of the world's population. Think about that, only 5%. Yet we protect 80% of the world's biodiversity and ecosystems. Think about that and let it sit. That is crazy numbers, you know. We only take up 5% of the world's population, and here we are defending our lands, and we have protected 80% of this world. This is why we're here today. That's strength. And a lot of the time, the women in our communities are the backbone of our communities. They're at home feeding our children, teaching our children, making sure that our homes are safe, making sure that we're being loved and cared for. That's a big part of our people, is love. We have and hold so much love for our people, for our communities, for our lands, for our waters. And that's why when we experience an injustice in environmental work, we grieve. I grieve. I grieve for the salmon. I grieve for our caribou. I grieve for our waters. We should be able to hunt and fish and drink clean water, breathe clean air. That should be our #1 right, and here we are fighting for that. Liberation is a deep pride in something that we were once made to feel ashamed of. The boarding school philosophy was kill the Indian, save the man. But look at us today. We were shamed for our languages, our brown skin, our culture, our ceremonies, our traditions, our tattooing. And what I get a lot is even some of our own people asking me, did we even practice tattooing? I don't think we did that. It's not what we do. But there is a lot of documentation and oral history that our people were so proud and so beautiful and carried these traditional markings proudly. When I was 14 years old, I took that step and I took that risk, knowing that every space that I show up in, the first thing they're gonna see is my big old nose and my tattoo on my face. And they're gonna say, oh, she must be Indigenous. And then I automatically become a target. Whether it be from the MMIW, Two-Spirit, our people's epidemic, our people go missing or are found murdered higher than any other race in this world, in this country. And that's a statistic that I am constantly scared of in every space that I go, in every part of the world that I walk in, because I'm usually the only Native American there. And it's a lot. It can feel like a lot of pressure. It can feel very lonesome. But again, when I step in front of that mirror, I see my ancestors, whether it be my features to my tattoos, knowing that in every space that I walk in, I can walk in with pride. And that's what our ancestors would want for us. Something that really kind of changed my perspective in different ways was, I thought that people were going to be very, very supportive and thankful for these traditions coming back to life. But one of my friends recently told me that her family told her that if she received her traditional tattoos, that they would disown her. And that reminded me that our people still suffer from that shame, from the boarding schools, the assimilation. It is so prominent and so real. But I'm also seeing young people stepping up and realizing that we don't have to carry that shame anymore. We are proud to be Native. I see youth in this room. I see Native youth all across the world. I've spoken with other youth, Native youth on reservations, at different conferences. And this one girl also came up to me, and her tribe also practiced traditional tattooing. And she came to me and was like, I'm not ready for this tattoo yet, but one day I will be, and you will be the big reason that I did that, because every day I think about it and I think about you and how you're on magazine covers, how you're walking runway shows, how you're representing our people in such a proud way, and that could be me one day. And the next time I saw her, which was at the White House, she had her traditional tattoos. And I just gave her a big hug and I congratulated her. So all you young people, get rid of that shame, throw it out. It no longer serves a purpose here today. I see so much pride, so much beauty, all in this room and beyond. That shame only holds us back from what we're truly capable of. Find a liberation in that. About 6 years ago, my stepfather took his own life, and that was one of the most challenging parts of my life. And after that, it just got worse and worse. And when I realized that this was something that our entire community faces, I had to really take that in. And my mom took us on a 2-month healing journey. And we went to the Navajo Nation, and we drove all through the US. And my mom wanted me and my brothers to feel a sense of purpose, to feel a sense of pride, to feel alive again. And so she brought us to all of our homelands. We were in Alaska, then we went to the Navajo Nation, which is where my little brother's from. And then we drove all the way up to Pine Ridge Reservation as we were passing through to visit my grandparents, making sure that me and my older brother knew a sense of connection to our other side of our our people. And I remember going there and passing through and feeling so proud and so happy that I, could not stop staring at the window. I could not stop thinking about my ancestors that were also from the South Dakota reservations. And as we were passing through, my mom saw a sign that in big, bold words, painted on some plywood, that said, "You have a purpose." That was a bold reminder that we all have to keep in mind, that we do have our bad days, we have our struggles. But we can't let that change or redirect our path. We can't let that define who we are. We are so much more than our trauma. We are so much more than the struggles that we face systemically and even individually. When I was 3, I had a dream, and it seemed a bit too unrealistic, knowing that there was no Native Americans that were models. My mom took us, me and my siblings, to Mongolia, where my grandparents were. And we ended up staying for a few years. I spoke fluent Mongolian when I was a kid, and we lived in a tribal community that was very much like our Indigenous communities here in Alaska. So we kind of fit right in. Thank you. Let's see. And we fit right in, and we felt right at home, and they just took us in like we were one of them. And every time we'd go into the big city to re-up on supplies or, make sure that we had everything that we needed, my mom would turn on the TV, and since she couldn't speak fluent Mongolian quite yet, and me and my little siblings, and we all spoke fluently at that point already. And we were just watching TV, watching cartoons, and my mom, she just got frustrated because she couldn't keep up with it. She couldn't understand it, so she changed the channel and put it on a random channel that had no words. And funny enough, it was a 24/7, 24-hour fashion channel. And it was all runway shows, and that's where my deep love came for fashion. I remember sitting in front of that TV completely mesmerized, and ever since then, I practiced my walk, I posed in every photo, and as I grew, I manifested that, but for so long, I did not think that that was achievable. The lack of representation made me believe that I did not belong in those spaces, that I was not beautiful enough. Those beauty standards are not realistic. That box, that stereotypical box that we don't fit in, is not for us. That is for them, and that's on them. I had to recognize that I have to own my space. Over time, though, while I realized that that wasn't realistic enough for me, I just kind of always thought that it was going to be a dream. I worked really, really hard and very passionately, and my goal was not to be famous or not to be a model. I actually started working for my people, and I wanted to use my voice in the right way. And with that came those opportunities. And I took those opportunities and I ran with it, and I took all of you with me. In my short life of 20 years, I've experienced many forms of healthcare in Europe and Mongolia, all over the US, on different reservations, and even here. And I can tell you that Chief Jerry Isaac had a vision of having our own clinic. And people told him that that was not possible, that we could not achieve that. But here we are, look at the clinic that we have today, and I can tell you, with as much experience that I have with many other healthcare, this is the best healthcare I've ever experienced in my entire life. His example of commitment to that vision and love for his people is what got us here, and is what continues to inspire me, is the love for my people. It is so important to stay committed to our dreams and to our vision. I almost gave up on mine, thinking, again, that it was not possible and it was not made for me. It was not meant for us to thrive in, because they want to change every part of who we are. But what's so important is that we work hard and stay focused, and that is how we achieve excellence. Overcome that cycle. Break that cycle. Young people, there's a lot of things that want to destroy you in this world, especially as Indigenous people. The environmental racism of all of these projects surrounding our communities that not just only harms our communities, but harms the entire world. We are put in positions where we have to fight for things that we should not have to fight for. And our young people are stepping up to the plate when we should be living freely, when we should be thriving, when we should be experiencing the world. But here we are, using our voice, trying to just live. In our walk, there will be challenges and obstacles and failures, but do not let them define you, because let me tell you, there were moments where I thought my failures and my challenges, it was like the end of the world for me. I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm tired. I faced my own struggles. And let me tell you, you look on my social media page and big smiles and a lot of achievements and hard work. But I can tell you that I, for one, suffer with depression and anxiety severely. And it is really hard for me to show up sometimes. But all I have to think about is my people. All I have to think about is what our ancestors went through for us to be here today. What our chiefs, our leaders have achieved in all of their years and hard work and dedication and the love of our people. We are here today and we are trying so hard to just thrive. We're still facing challenges that can completely change how we walk our paths. But here we are defending that. Instead of letting those challenges and obstacles and failures define you, use them as opportunities to learn and grow. It can be so hard, you want to just give up. But I can tell you that when I wanted to give up, and I forced myself to get out of bed, and I forced myself onto that Zoom meeting, or I forced myself onto that runway, at the end of the day, I felt like I have achieved something great because I battled with myself. I'm my own worst enemy, and I showed up knowing, that I suffer from these things, but I am not doing what I do for myself. It is way bigger than myself. I cannot just sit and give up, because if I give up, I won't have the opportunities to be able to uplift my people. And that's all I want to do in the work that I do. My career is so demanding and so fast-paced and can be very, very challenging. But my love for my people, my love for our communities, for our lands, our ways of life, and having the experiences that I have, having the connection that I have, knowing that I have people here in Alaska working tirelessly every single day for our communities, it just makes me want to work harder and push harder. The inspiration I get from our communities, I don't think I can even describe to you in words. I am extremely honored to be in front of you today to deliver this. I didn't think in my lifetime that anyone would care for anything I had to say, So I truly appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. It means so much to me. And with everything that you say, our tribal leaders here constantly working hard, our youth constantly working hard, stepping up to the plate, your words of passion and love for your people is what gives me drive and reminds me of the reason why I do what I do. I can tell you when I went to the Met Gala for the first time, I saw one other Indigenous person there, and it was Taika Waititi. It was pretty cool to see him, but I could tell that we both felt uncomfortable. And that was a very challenging space to be in, if I'm being completely honest. Very lonely, and you realize when you're in those spaces that no one really cares about anything but their fancy outfits and their pretty faces and getting the right picture taken. But when I walked up onto those steps, onto that red carpet, I felt like I did not belong there, that I just checked the box of being the Native American. And I wanted to be able to speak because there's so much media covering so many things on the Met Gala, so many magazines, news. I can't even begin to tell you the paparazzi. It's crazy, it's overwhelming, it's overstimulating. And I got so much anxiety being on that carpet because when I went on that carpet, no one wanted to take photos of me. They didn't know who I was. I had paparazzi yelling at me to get out of the way so they could take pictures of some other celebrity. And I knew that I didn't belong in that space. But let me tell you, I had to just breathe. And as I walked up those steps, I reminded myself why I was there, who I was and where I came from. And I felt that pride pouring back into me. And as soon as I turned around, when I got to the top of those steps, I just envisioned all of my ancestors walking up those stairs behind me. And I felt strong again. We are our ancestors' wildest dream. Remember that. In everything that you do, our ancestors are with you, supporting you, cheering you on. Your people are cheering you on. I'm cheering you on. Before I finish off, I just also want to say that in everything that I do, I really, really listen. I'm very, very patient, and I watch. I'm very, very mindful in everything that I do because I want to represent and show up in the best way I can. But I also want to make you proud. I'm so proud to be here. I'm proud to stand up here. I'm proud to be surrounded by community. And I just want to try my best to make sure that I make you all proud too. Because we are the future. We are the future. And the future is Indigenous. Thank you so much.
Don't run away yet. So bear with us here. We're going to do an honor song. Quannah had asked to come up and do some drumming. And so we'll do the drumming down here. And so everybody that wants to join in, come up. If there's not room and you want to stand where you are at, go ahead. And when we're done with the drumming, we'll do the gifts. Do you want to come down there? Brian, I gotta go. Okay. Don't leave yet, though. Okay. Okay, so bear with me here. Oh, yeah. So, in my role, I hope I don't get in trouble here, but because of her advocacy, nationwide and worldwide, we have a woman's chief's necklace for her advocacy and work made in the traditional style by Melissa Charlie. Come on here. Can you get that? That's not all. But wait, there's more. A $3,000 honorarium for your speech.
Can I just give this to the youth,
Oh, yeah.
emerging leaders for whatever they're
Sure.
doing? Yeah, you can keep that.
Okay.
I don't know.
And then for your future modeling, we have a beaded necklace, earrings, and bracelet set made by Lynette Winfrey Frank of Minto. So, and the earrings to go with it. Let's see. We got those. So while she packages that up, I want to mention, I'd never heard her speak before until AFN. And when I heard her speak, I said, we got to have you at convention. So I think we can all agree that was a good decision. Now, many of you know the unfortunate outcome that we had had at the Board of Fish. But as soon as that outcome happened, I texted her mom, and her support team got on it, and within an hour, she was advocating for our fish. So thank you. And finally, we got the Eagle crew here with more gifts, so take it away.
So my name is Karma Olvey. I'm the first chief of the native village of Eagle. And our tribe and council are extremely proud of Quannah. She's such a beautiful, strong, and yet very humble young lady. She's a strong advocate for not only our people, but all of your people, and which is all of our people together. But she looks out and speaks on behalf of all of us. And we want to thank her so much for the work that she does to protect our way of life. We would like to present Quannah with this drum that's made by Harold Northway from Northway. And so she can sing our songs and while she's away and she can't come home. So here you go, Quannah. And inside this little box is a USB drive from all of our songs from Dawson that we've recently gotten back from Dawson, who are the other population of Han Athabascans, and all our family from there. We practiced our songs at our language camp last fall. And so we're just gonna start rebuilding our dance group. So there's USB drive in here with all of our traditional songs. And then Daisy Northway made you this bracelet and asked me to present this to you on her behalf, and these earrings. So. So we love you, Q, and we're so proud of you.
I honestly can't tell you how much this means to me. Being away is so hard, and I have not heard our songs in so long. Thank you for singing for me. Thank you for the beautiful gifts. Did not expect anything, and I'm extremely honored and thankful. Masicho.
All right, baby.